Good thinking 60. So much good stuff.
Yeah. So in this episode, we cover edible arrangements, launching edibles, which is a CBD THC beverage wholesale site. Anyway, we're going to tell you all the things that we need to know about this and what we think about it and how that works in terms of brand positioning.
Yes, we'll break down how edible arrangements are now edibles.com.
Mm-hmm.
Water is the new non-alcoholic.
Yes.
Non-alcoholic? That's not right.
NA drink. Yes. We're going to talk about how Liquid Death is positioning water as a non-alcoholic beverage. So that'll be fun. We're also going to talk about Chillajit or Chillawhat. If you're like one of those people, I'll explain what it is and why it's a kind of big in the wellness space and some big trends that it actually connects to.
And you should be taking it. And why?
Yes. And then what else are we going to talk about?
We talk about ordinary eggs.
Oh, yes. Ordinary eggs, coming out with viral eggs, the good kind of viral. And
yes.
We are going to also talk about how tradwife vibes are becoming bigger on campus and how that might be a bigger trend for brands to understand and watch.
So stay tuned. We're going to dig in.
All right, let's do it.
Episode 60, here we are.
60. We're like, we're not even young anymore. We're like in our like finest
Careful.
hour.
Careful.
We're in our finest moment. Like we're like, we're growing up. We've got the wisdom. We've got the savviness, the age, the sexiness. We've got all of the things. Like we're in our best era.
For sure. Here for it.
Here for it.
Yep. Good Thinking Weekly, the podcast.
Yeah. The best of the best on trends, marketing, culture, and brand.
All the things.
Yeah. All the things.
All right. Let's get to it. Wanted to just mention, wow. Okay, then. Going great. Some shout outs. This week, we're going to have our masterclass online. Everybody can join.
Yes. It is on Thursday. Because if you're not, this week could mean anything. It'll be this Thursday, the 27th.
Yes, the 27th. Yes, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yes, sign up on the Substack, or if you follow us on LinkedIn, we've both posted it there. So get all the places to do it. It'll be fun. It's going to be an hour packed of like basically everything you need to know for Q1 in terms of like culture, brand, everything that's happening, all the lessons that you need to learn from this last quarter to use into the next quarter. That's what this is about.
Amazing.
All right?
Yeah, it's going to be great. And then we've got brands and culture next week, which we'll talk about next week. We have the tour next week, which we'll talk about next week. And I mean, I got to give another shout out. Your parents, they've got to be framing the Wall Street Journal article. And if they're not, I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, well, my parents are very English, so like, great. Sounds great, But my mom's friend did find it because it made the front page of the business section, which is like a huge thing. So basically, this story was picked up from podcasts that we did here about brands of fighting, and the fine folks one of the fine writers at the Wall Street Journal, Patrick, reached out to me and was like, "I think you're onto something here. I want to talk about it." So we talked about it, and it made the front page of the business section. So that was fun. My mom's friend found it. She gave her a copy, something as a souvenir. But it's fun.
That's right.
So it's nice to know the things we're talking about here are relevant and exciting to all the right people.
And resonating, which they are. All right, let's get into it. Culture. Lots to dig into in general, but being really thoughtful. We want to make this a succinct one. So you up front, as seen on YouTube. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, what I was talking about there is that YouTube is doing their own upfronts this year. So just how all the big networks do upfronts, YouTube is also doing an upfront. And they have tons and tons of CMOs are joining. And I just think it's really interesting to see. So the people who are going to be at the upfronts are, kind of all the people that you would imagine, Mr. Beast, like all the da-da-da-das. And I think you can tell what Kirsten's been shopping for. She's been trying to buy a trampoline.
It's for a beauty brand. It's for the rebounder that I know you do daily. But I was like, I got to be really careful with what I shop on. I started thinking.
Yeah, so we're looking at Kirsten's ads right now, and we can see that she is being heavily targeted in the rebounder space. But anyway, this article is about how these upfronts are happening, and they're kind of being hosted and kind of joined by all of these big YouTube stars. But one of the things that I think is interesting is not only that this is happening, and obviously an opportunity for brands to kind of get involved in that, but it's also how, like I wrote the week before about how essentially like YouTube had a charity match, and the charity match sponsorship like blew out the sponsorship for one match, like one single match. blew out the sponsorship for all of the Premier League's like year sponsorship. You know, like some brands were really putting a lot of money behind it. And I think it goes to show that this is a, you know, I think we've been talking about the fact that it's a legitimate channel for like maybe 20 years. So like,
Yeah,
it's a legitimate channel. Like guys, it's not a, you know, it's no small thing. So I think the fact that they're really taking themselves seriously, I think is representative of basically where culture is going.
for sure. I mean, I think to that point, you know, it feels like it's has it taken this long for YouTube and others to realize that they need to get in the upfronts? And then my follow-up question off of that, is this the most, like, if you were to create what the upfronts represent and kind of that exposure, is that the same format? Or would you do something even more innovative?
I mean, I hope they do something different, but, you know, we're not part of that. But if they want our help, you know, we're here.
A lot of opportunity. A lot of opportunity.
Yeah. What would you do? Drop it in the comments.
Yes. Would love to hear. All right. Food and beverage. Water is the new NA. I mean, talked about, it's in all the feeds. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah. And you actually, when we were in LA, were talking about how water felt like it was picking up as a space. We were walking around Air One, and Kirsten was like, there's this new water brand. Here's what these guys do.
Yes.
Like, she was like a tour guide for the water section. So yeah, what Kirsten's talking about is that Liquid Death did a ad spot with Kylie Kelsey, who, if you don't know who Kylie Kelsey is, then, you know, we probably need to talk in a bigger way. But she has one of the biggest podcasts out now. She's obviously the wife of a very famous football player. But what I loved about this was that so they kind of are positioning water as being a non-alcoholic drink, which, like, I think is obvious to kind of a lot of people, but maybe not really obvious. And it's also because the non-alcoholic space is so big, it's like water used to be the only non-alcoholic drink you could reliably get. And now you have so many, but it's actually still like a really good option. And more than that, I love that they were representing pregnancy as like not so like precious, not so twee. Like, I was thinking about, you know, all the pregnant people that I know, including myself, and like there is an unhingedness to people who are pregnant. Like, they are feral in like ways that they've never known that they could be feral, type of thing. And I like the idea that, like, and I think there's the full spectrum, right? Like, there's this beautiful new ad by Sophia Rowe and Pirelli. I never know if that's how you say their name, but anyway, is great. But it's like the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Like, there's this, like, she's like, I really pay attention to what I put in my body. And like, I think that is a truth, and that is a beautiful truth. And I think one that is very, very prevalent. And then I think there's this other side of it where you're just like, I don't recognize myself. I'm crazy. Like, I'm not, and I'm also not like as fragile as I thought, and I'm not as, like, you know, all in my womanhood as I thought I would be. Like, you're just kind of like all the things. Like, you're a full spectrum of person when you're pregnant. And I think for a long time, you know, maybe neither end of the spectrum was truly represented, and we were just not talked about. It was just like, okay, like, that's just a phase they go through. Like, let's give them nothing to talk about. And now I feel like it's at least a realization that there's so much going on in this space that we could talk about. There's a full spectrum of things that we could discuss.
Right. Yeah, I think well said. And I think it's amazing that this is brought to you by Liquid Death. I think for me, this takes kind of the ad campaigns that have been like, okay, well, they're really pushing things. They're really trying to get us to talk about something. Sometimes it feels a little bit obvious. Sometimes it feels a little bit like poking the bear. And then this, I think you really start to see their overall strategy in really like, okay, here's really the through thread. And I love, like you do, that they're taking pregnancy and normalizing it and celebrating it.
Right.
Yeah. And not, you know, not making it kind of this precious thing.
Yeah. Not like putting us in a corner where it's like, okay, for 9 months, we like don't talk about you.
10 months. Let's just be clear.
Right. And really, like, you know, so much longer. But yeah, so love that. Whoever's on this strategy team, like, claps for paying attention to the world. And I also think it's nice also because I think Liquid Death so often is like viewed as this like male brand. And I like that they're like, no, like we're for all the unhinged folks of the world, like pregnant women to, you know, people at mosh pits wearing Depend to like, you know, all the things. So I really like what they've been building. And I think they sometimes like, I think they're well admired for being stunty, but I think they're oversimplified as a brand of what they're doing, because everyone's like, oh, it's just stunts, but it's not stunts. It's smart strategy. It's unhinged. It's, you know, brands behaving badly or whatever, but it's not stunty.
Right. Well, I think it has been. I think they are, and they could have been seen just as stunts, but I think something like this, where now they're starting to take it from a different perspective, and I think, you know, having the audience as women, and I think celebrating pregnancy and not getting out of kind of the mosh pit or kind of more of the, you know, kind of assumed male dominated aspects of it really shows that strategy in super, super clear light.
Yeah.
And listening to the world. Okay. Drugs and booze. So this is something that I think you and I have been slacking a little bit about. So we gotta dig into it. Edible by name, edible arrangements.
Yes. So I saw that the amazing Terry at Adweek had written about this story, and she writes a lot in the cannabis space, and I read a lot, and I've been quoted in her articles a lot, so I'm always paying attention to what she's writing about. And so Edible Arrangements, who everybody knows, right? Like, you know, classic Edible Arrangements, has launched a new website called edibles.com that is selling... this is THC, but I think a lot of this is CBD, like, you know, or like it's THC, CBD mixed together. But anyway, it's what's allowed by the Farm Bill and the Farm Bill extension. And the big player in this space is Brev, who've made many, many headlines for being extremely profitable. And so, like, if you didn't have to... Brez, right? Sorry, I said Brev, but I mean Brez, guys. As we know, names not my thing. So I think what's, you know, like, so anyway, I commented on this on LinkedIn, and then the guy, one of the people reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, would you like to interview me? So now, guys, I'm a reporter. So I interviewed them, and I was asking them, you know, like, what is going on? And he was like, yeah, it's all going to come to light. Like, it's all going to make sense in a few more months. And like, really was pretty coy about the whole thing and like how it makes sense. I mean, to be frank, like, let's say this is a cash grab at the word. Like, maybe they own edibles.com. It make, like, from a money perspective, this makes sense, right? From a brands working together perspective, like, how does this make sense? But one thing that was interesting that he was telling me is that Edible Arrangements franchise is getting a big update. So they're doing a whole refresh of the interiors and turning those Edible Arrangements locations into something that's more like a coffee shop. And the plan is to have an edibles.com, or just edibles, I guess, franchise location too. So that will essentially be, in what my mind is essentially like a THC CBD bar concept, or at least store. Okay. Like, I don't know if it's going to be like a 7-Eleven of THC only, or if it's going to be a bar concept. I don't know. So that he wouldn't reveal what the strategy was, but I asked and I asked. So anyway, it's an interesting development. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments if it makes sense to you.
I would love to hear it, because I'm really looking for that through thread. Well done. Applaud on whoever's sitting back there and being like, hey, we have that URL. Let's really push on it. But I'm really missing seeing the through thread in kind of their customer or brand and making that leap.
I'm hoping that this is kind of like a bigger picture, like we're really taking things to a different level. Like maybe the edible arrangement thing gets like a revamp and it becomes edible arrangement. Like, I don't know what we're looking at here, people, but like, I was like, I'm always fascinated when I see a legacy brand try something new. Like, I will always applaud that. But like there needs to be from a customer perspective, unless they just don't care. Like it's like maybe like, but the headline of that Terry wrote made it sound like it was like, we want these two things, like we want the like this and this to be
Clearly.
like somehow connected.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to do that, you really have to have a story like that to tell people the story, but like not wait for it to reveal it. So, like, I'm all about a slow reveal, but you have to do it in the right order.
Yes. Very curious to see how this is gonna play it out. And I agree, like applauding for them for like pushing. I want to see the connection for sure. I'm hoping it's there.
Yeah.
All right. Silvers, alphas, and Zs. Shopping religion.
Right.
Tradwives.
Yes. So we talked about in the 2025 predictions that, tradwife vibes would be on the rise. And I guess it's not just on the rise in wives, it's on the rise on campus.
Wow, that sounds okay. Sounds like I love it. I'm here for your rap ballad.
So Altered State is a brand that I had not heard of, but I am probably the furthest from like their audience that one could imagine. So they are a brand out of the Midwest, like focused on the Midwest and the South anyway, like primarily it sounds like, and it apparently like quite popular on campus. And so you can go on this website and it's like you can get a What Would Jesus Do t-shirt, but you can also get like a Spicy Margaritas t-shirt. So, like you can make sure like you have all the things in the spectrum of like trad wives, I suppose. But it's just interesting to see this larger conversation around, and like, I was reading about it today, like I'm trying to remember what the name of it is, obviously. But it's an app that is for Catholic people that is like super big now. It's called, let me find it. Ooh, gosh, there's so much tradwife. It's called Hallow, a prayer and meditation app that is it's the number one Catholic app and has been downloaded 18 million times and used by 500 million people in 150 countries.
Wow.
Who knew? Big business. Okay. Religion is big business.
It is big business. Yes. And I am actually familiar with this brand. Thank you very much. The CMO of all of these brands is a badass who I worked with at American Eagle, Dana Sigmund. She's rad. Yeah. So not surprising that they would catch on to this trend and do something like that. But it's definitely, I think, the contrast of the WWJD and the spicy marg is, what I love the most. They have something for everyone.
They have something for everyone. So if you like the brand and you don't need the religious part, you can just forego it, I suppose. Or maybe, drinking is fine with religion now. I don't, obviously no expertise here. But I think it's just really interesting that these more traditional values, more conservative values, more religious values are really mainstreaming in a way that like it was previously, I think, 10 years ago, if you said like, hey, like we're a religious-based band, someone would say, I don't know, guys, like that doesn't feel like it's for me. And now I think there's more and more people who are openly saying like, yes, that is for me, but B, like that you would consider it regardless.
Right. And it does feel like it's becoming more of a yes and, where I think previously it was like, okay, if you're this, then you're not going to do this. Like we were just talking about, right? If you were then religious, then you're not going to drink. Like that's off. Right. And I think there is more of a yes and of like, you can be this and that. And I am 100% here for that.
Yeah. And I will say like the photography assets and everything, like they're decent. Like, they're not necessarily my aesthetic, but like there's effort being made.
Dan and our team killing it. All right. This I'm really, really excited to talk about. Moving into retail.
Your favorite topic?
Yeah. I mean, kind of, yes. Phoebe inspired.
Yes. So are we going to have another debate? Another debate of how do I say this person's name? Phoebe Philo?
Yeah, I say Phoebe Philo, but I don't know if it's Philo or Philo. Let us know.
Let us know in the comments because I can't. So yeah. So she, you know, is a designer. She's coming out with these rad collections like lately, lots and lots of great seasons. And they were sent, Puck has been writing, like, I love reading Sarah and Lauren. So good. The writing is really great. I met Sarah in San Francisco recently. It's like fangirling at a coffee shop. But she was writing about, or they were writing, I think it was Sarah, but I can't remember, about how everybody from Cost to Everlane is essentially like, this is who they're all referencing. Like when they're looking for inspiration, like the inspiration is coming from one main person. And, you know, that's an interesting thing to know.
For sure. And I think what's interesting, and I say Phoebe Philo, maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. Definitely let us know. But I think what's so interesting is she's like, this isn't new, right? She is an iconic designer that's been doing this for a minute, has kind of always kept to her style and her vision. And I think now we're seeing that in such a wide inspiration lane. I think to your point from Cost and Everlane and really the highs and lows.
Yeah, I think it's cool that she's having this bigger moment and bigger recognition, I guess, maybe that like
more commercial recognition.
And that especially her latest collections are really resonating with a kind of a broader inspiration audience.
Yeah, it's pretty. Her work is pretty iconic and beautiful, in my opinion. Moving to tech.
Tell me.
Corporate party. Taylor Lorenz. Particle.
Particle. Right. Ooh. All right. I'll try to be kind here. So there is a very truthful, kind thing for me to say about this, and then we can talk about like my issues with Particle a bit. But Particle came out with this new ad. It's quite a fun ad. It has a very Instagram premium vibe to it, I would say. And they are essentially introducing like a B2B aspect to their business, right? So before it was essentially all people who just people who want to have parties. Yes. This part, yes. It is a need. Like no one wants to go on. As a brand, I don't want to be on Eventbrite. Like when I started the Good Thinking NYC tour, I was like, oh, of course I'm going to have it on Particle because that's what all the cool kids are doing. And I want to be a cool kid. And then they also have this really nice interface and it actually you can do all these cool themes and the themes are nice and it creates the graphics and it and it has this nice website and you do all this stuff and it's wonderful, like that part. And then I did this very silly thing with my thing where I used a feature and then it disabled tons of other features and they didn't tell you about it. And so I contacted them and was or Kirsten, because I was in a shame spiral and I couldn't even bring myself to contact them. I was so angry and so shameful that this had gone so wrong. And they were like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That's just how it works. And it's well, but you didn't tell me that that's how it works. And this is where I feel like they're going to run into some real problems, right? It's one thing to be hey, we're this basic party app. But when a business is running an event, there is a level of trust and a level of professionalism and a level of severity, quite honestly, to planning an event that you're inviting potential clients, customers, people who trust you to. And so you really need things to work. And you also really need customer service that lets you feel like you're a business and that you're important to them. And that is not what I experienced. So I think Particle is a great, great idea. I love the interface. They got some shit to fix. And I know they're a really small team over there and they're flying by the seat of their pants and they're really, really taking off like a rocket ship and I'm excited for them. So hope that they figured this out.
Right. I mean, I think it's amazing that it's happened kind of in what I've seen so quickly. I was sent an invite from somebody else and didn't even register necessarily. It was through Particle, but didn't register what it was, just looked at, and either accepted or couldn't go to the event. And then, of course, you do good thinking on this, and it's like, okay, well, now I've got to dig in more and really understand what this is. And I think this is where brand and customer service, and you see all of like the important parts of technology and of a brand are really important at such a vital stage, right? They are tiny, they are young, they are looking to do this, but you want the experience that people like us have had to be really something where we're sharing how excited we are and how inspired we are. And even as we've exampled, even if they fuck up on something, as that challenge really was, they can fix it. And then we're even more excited because of the way that they've committed and connected and fixed it and reacted, which wasn't the case. And then I think you see something like what Apple's doing, right? So they're now trying to get into the space. And that's where it's like, okay, well, unless you're really showing up and you're really dialed in, this is what's going to happen, and they're going to take over.
Yeah. I mean, I will say Apple's not going to offer any kind of customer service like at all. So like they've got that. So like if they want to differentiate, like here's how you differentiate. And we've talked about, like ShopMy as an experience and how amazing their onboarding experience is and how amazing like their customer service is and how you really feel taken care of, and it's amazing. And I will say that like while you can think of ShopMy as a consumer brand, it is somewhat also a business brand, right? Like they have both, they really have both customers. So they have a unique situation. And I think they really understand that, recently somebody reached out to me and they were like, can you write a B2B version of your letter? Because I think it's so helpful. And like, I would love a B2B version. And I was like, it's a team of one person writing over here. So probably not this year. But, let me know in the comments if that is something that you guys really want. And I could bring someone on and we can make this a whole party. But I think that one of the things that is really interesting is B2C brands trying to play in the B2B space, because it's different. And I think that you really have to understand like customer service and like onboarding stuff is really, really, really critical in that space. Yeah.
Yeah. I think ShopMy is a great, great example. And I think there's so many new tech brands and there's only going to be more. But I think this is a perfect case study of, okay, well, technology is what created it, right? It was able to do the things that other platforms weren't able to do, and kind of brand, right? The right positioning of it, the right aesthetic, the right aspects that it allowed you to design, that you're sending it to people think it's cool and kind of the latest thing. And then customer service. Are you going to win in this game? And is it going to be something where we're sharing how inspiring it was? Even if the tech isn't working or something's not working, you can still win, word of mouth and win inspiration if you just reply in a smart, thoughtful way.
And kind way. Kindness for the win.
Kindness for the win. Yes. All right. Sport. Puma takeover. I always want to say oofball, but it's offball.
Offball. Yeah, offballs are great. They are on the Beehive. So they're not a Substack. A great Beehive. I don't know how we talk about those.
Sounds right.
So Puma seems to be really, turning up the heat this year. They're like, okay, like we want to get things done and make things happen. So they are taking over from Nike they already have their soccer balls or their footballs in many other leagues, but they're coming to the Premiership League, which is obviously the one that I think in terms of international reputation, like gets the most play. But quite honestly, all of the leagues like nowadays are very high profile, but they're taking over, which is a huge deal because Nike has been the ball provider for maybe 25 years. So that's big. Nike says that in this article, it says that Nike said that they want to focus their attention on other spaces. And then there was another thing that I saw. What was it? They were doing something big. Was it in China? I can't remember. Oh, yes. Balenciaga. So they did this great collab, which, looks cool, interesting. I mean, I don't know how Balenciaga it is, but interesting that they're doing it rather. And then the biggest thing that I thought was fun and really kind of pushing the edge and quite a great ad and definitely getting a ton of play for this Fenty was the runners get runner's high campaign at the end. So this one, if you listen to the audio, which is, I don't know if we can do that here. Can we do that here? Can people hear?
We can do that, I think.
All right. Okay. So just so you guys could hear the song, it was a little loud. Hopefully we didn't. But it's like, a very famous song. And it's playing this joke of like, oh, then I got high, and it's all about like how this runner goes out and they were gonna like, not gonna do this thing, and then I got high and they went on a run. And it's a cute like idea. The song is catchy. Obviously people love the song. And I have been seeing this all over my feed. Like it's hitting whatever they're doing. And it's definitely like felt more like a kind of like it is an ad, but it felt like kind of Instagram premium-ish. It's not quite Instagram premium-ish. I would say it's too addy for me for like this particular like, but I look for ads, so it's like I live with it. But it's I was really impressed. Like, and I think it's interesting that they're trying to be like clever and witty and like, trying things, and like it feels to me like they had been sleeping for a really long time. We hadn't heard anything from them. So I'm just excited to see somebody waking up and saying, no, like we're coming to play.
Yeah. And not to mention kind of the whole Rihanna thing. I mean, I think what Puma is doing, and I think in general, like I love to see really all of the brands stepping up. And obviously, as we know, it's been taking place much longer, but to kind of see, Nike was slipping a bit. And I think, brands and people really became very aware of that. And to see Puma and Adidas, as we've talked about on previous pods, like really step in and really try to take some leeway and make some headway from a brand standpoint and, customer standpoint, I think is great to see that everybody's kind of leading with their best, runner's foot forward, if you will. I know. And I think it's just great to see, because I think this is also such a fun, just the kind of Adidas, Puma, what they can really do is just such a fun take and fun. They really can push some things from a brand standpoint. And I think we're seeing that. I also love there's clearly this trend going on as far as letting the musical lyrics, letting the song kind of play out for you. I think as we saw in Dove previously, and this really gives that example, like you're already continuing to run through that song in your head, which I think is an interesting play for sure.
Yes, and applause to whoever brokered that licensing deal, because we know how hard that is. So big claps to you. But yeah, I think it's really fun to see them. I think Lululemon is also trying to play kind of big in this space. And, I think like everybody was giving On a lot of props, but like I think On has got a lot of competition coming its way lately. So, yeah, Hoka, what do we think Hoka's going to do? Because that feels like the one that's kind of gone quiet for me a little.
For sure.
So would be interested to know if anyone's seen anything that Hoka's doing that makes us think that they too want to play.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Would love to know. Okay. Wellness and beauty.
Another favorite topic.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to see this. And I mean, been seeing this for a minute, but clearly I think you heard about things in threes. So here we go. And good luck pronouncing this one.
Okay. I'm going to go with Shilajit.
Too legit. No, wait, something else.
Shilajit. That's how my husband said it when I told him about it. And he's fairly good at pronouncing things. So we'll see. Let us know if I did that right, guys. But anyway, so it was one of these things where actually the order of operations was a person who is extremely into kind of all the wellness things, ice bathing, sauning, bought a sauna for his house with the red light and was telling me that he was also going on a heavy metals, kind of journey, and had done the test like you have. Found out he had really, really high heavy metal content in his body. And the person that he was working with was kind of explaining that essentially, like in this heavy metals thinking, that if you're not absorbing the right nutrients and vitamins, then essentially you're making space for heavy metal to be absorbed. So you really need to have the right like mineral levels in order to not like start absorbing heavy metals in a big way. So while you're purging like these heavy metals and doing all of this stuff, which sounds like quite painful and horrible and can make you feel sick if you have a lot of them. But this is a really big emerging space. Like lots of people in the wellness space are talking about it. but once you're kind of in through the purge, then it's really about, making sure that you have the right mineral and vitamin levels in order to not start reabsorbing all these heavy metals. And he was saying that Shilajit is kind of that as a substance. It's an Ayurvedic, wellness treatment. I don't know how you would elixir. It looks like tar.
I mean, it's a resin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a resin. I think it's in the Himalayas. Like it's some, very, very rare place.
Yeah. It and apparently it tastes disgusting. But when you put it in hot water, you can kind of make this tea out of it. And then it kind of tastes like earthy is what I understand. Anyway, so you drink it every day. You up your minerals. You don't absorb more heavy metals and everything's great. So that was the story. And then suddenly Fred Hart, who, we had on the pod recently and who is somebody that I spend a lot of time reading his posts, he went to London to a trade show, to like a health and wellness CPG trade show. And he was like, and I saw this thing, like, what the hell is this? And I was like, Fred, it's me, Chris. I just heard about this too. I am like that crazy person on LinkedIn. So, anyway, then I was like, okay. And then somebody else mentioned it to me. So then I had to go and ask Jenny about it because Jenny is, all things wellness. And she writes a great Substack called Lit From Within. And she kind of goes into this. And I told her she should write something about this. But she was telling me, essentially corroborating what I had been told, but also was like, yes, really great for your skin, amazing for collagen, da-da-da-da-da. So if you're listening, this is the Shilajit.
Shilajit. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't serve it in your tea. It was definitely a miss. And I think Symbiotica is definitely a brand that I love. So I love that Stephen said that was the brand as well.
Yeah, I linked to it because he said that's the cleanest one. Obviously, there's lots of brands out there that make this, and I'm sure lots of brands that are great and clean out there. So, go find the brand you like. But Symbiotica seems to be kind of in the purity space of things, which was on also the 2025 predictions list, around that being purity being more important than clean. Purity space, Symbiotica is winning there.
And that's actually, Shilajit is a great example of that because it's not something that you can get just anywhere. And I think it's a great example of really finding the make sure. I believe it's from the Himalayas and it is this black tar-like resin. And I think that's something that obviously you really want the right one. It's not like everybody's making one and it's just a matter of how clean it is. That's really from the ingredients and where they're actually sourcing it from.
Mm-hmm.
Travel, go to sleep.
Yeah. Seems like, no shocker of shocks, maybe, all of the travel brands are, going in on sleep wellness, which, is a big, big topic. So Hilton has partnered with Calm to offer kind of these sleep mindfulness bits of content through their TVs. That you can watch. I haven't seen any of them. I'll let you know. I don't stay in Hilton often, but if Hilton wants me to stay and talk about it, let me know. But yeah, really interesting to see kind of Hilton obviously leaning into the wellness space, but Calm feels like the right partner for them. And then Westin. So I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast because my
listening a lot these days.
Yes. My bestie was like, hey, here's 27 episodes. So I was on the plane and that's what I was doing. I was catching up on all the podcasts that I've been sent that I have no time to do. And the Heavenly Bed was part of one of the ads that she kind of was promoting. And, they've had this mattress for a while. It's not and it's like a set of things, I guess, the sheets and the mattress, but I think it's mainly the mattress. And it's all about kind of the idea that this is going to be the best sleep that you've ever had. And given the size of the sleep wellness space, I think, you probably have the numbers in front of you, but it's a big one,
5.4 billion in 2024. That's expected to grow at a rate of 12.4%. Huge.
Big space. So it's no surprise that this is, kind of coming up. I mean, obviously, what you want to do when you're in a hotel is you want to get great sleep. That's certainly what I want. But I think it'll be interesting, like, if so many people go after it, like, at the same space, like, how do you really differentiate? How do you really kind of become known for this? Like, who's going to become known as, like, I'm not sure that they still have it, but they're definitely still known for having it, is like the Nordstrom's customer service, like kind of reputation, you know, like who is going to kind of rise up as like the one. So it'll be interesting to see.
And it's so smart. I mean, I think, as the sleep, I actually just ordered pillows and a thing that Jenny sent me yesterday. So just thinking about sleep and how important that really is. And I love the idea of hotels really like picking a lane and being like, we are going to be all about sleep. We're going to all be all about luxury sleep or whatever it might be, and really trying to own that versus everybody being all of the things to all of the people, like really trying to pick a lane and really own that and go after that. And sleep, luxury sleep as one of those, I'm here for that.
Yeah, I also think that there could be something, I think a lot about how I travel for work, and like, I think about my sleep is like, it's like efficient sleep. Like it's a different kind of sleep than I want when I'm on vacation with like my husband, right? Like I want like to be able to like relax in the bed and and like, drift off. But when I'm there for work, like, it's like, I want to like go to sleep. Like, it's like, I come to the room, I'm not there. I'm probably coming off of a dinner, coming off of a meeting. Like, I just want to go. Like, it's like, it's very funny. Like, and I think like, having things where all the light switches turn off and there's not some random yellow light like in the corner that like turns on with 58 switches. Like it's actually like details like that. I generally think that there could be more thought placed on business travelers. Like you actually really need a full length mirror when you're traveling for business. Like
100%.
Let that be a PSA. Things like that.
Yes, but I think, and we analyze every hotel room we go in, and I think there's great insights there that maybe we'll share next time. But I think to that notion of really hotel brands, and maybe it's chains off of brands, but really starting to own a very specific thing. So you're like, oh, you know what? It's really busy this week, but I'm going to differentiate between a Hilton, a Westin, kind of all of the chains to say, I really want this type of thing. And for once, they could really feel differentiated by owning sleep or owning efficiency or luxury or whatever it might be, I think is a really smart strategy versus kind of, again, trying to be all the things to all the people.
Yes, I will say that I do think that brands have in the past tried to do that, but they do it in a very like sort of surface way, right? Like they're like, oh, we're the #1 business hotel like in the world. And it's like, no. What does that really mean? And like, how do you like really dig deep on that positioning so that it's like you actually feel that when you're in the room versus like, oh, you tell me that it's a business hotel, but actually like the idea of a business hotel, like the way that it has been previously positioned is like the opposite of what I want, right? Like I want luxury business, like I want like the cool business hotel. Like that's, what I want. So
yeah, I mean, because we've talked about this a bit. That's a bit on our bingo card. Like give us a luxury resort and really, dialing in the strategy and really owning something from all the way of that entire consumer journey all the way through would be amazing and fun. And yes,
we'd be good at it. All right.
Okay.
We got 1 minute.
We only have 1 minute. Fun for the week. A lot of things I want to talk about, but the only thing we have time to talk about is ordinary eggs.
All right. I mean, I don't even know how to like talk about how funny this is,
so
right?
Good.
So The Ordinary came out with MiSCHF. They came out with this egg. These like ordinary eggs. They're going to sell for $3.37 as ordinary eggs should, which is obviously, if you know, like it's just very tongue in cheek. But one thing that I think it does really well is it also ties back to their positioning, right? It ties back to the idea that like basics and shit that doesn't have to have like, they drill down so it's just like the purity of the thing, right? Like that, like the single ingredient, like that should be affordable because it's like, hey, I don't need all this other stuff. And you really like get it. And obviously that's not what's happening with the real viral eggs versus these eggs that went viral. But, I think it does really track with their positioning. So I thought it was really clever.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's obviously eggs are such a situation right now, like you can't fucking get them. And when you can get them, like there's notices in all the grocery stores. Yes, I went into Trader Joe's and says like you can only take one, and trying to get those things delivered and get more than one carton. Like it really is like a situation that everybody's feeling. And so for them to come in and take something like that that's real and that's, you know, a challenge on a lot of levels for a lot of reasons, and not just be like, hey, we're going to talk about it, we're going to do this. Just simply create something that's beautiful, that's on brand, that's part of the strategy, and that solves the problem. Like, well done. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny. So yeah, really liked it. That's it.
All right. That's it. That's all we have time for.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, do all the things, hit all the buttons. If you enjoyed this episode, you can follow us on Apple, you can follow us on Spotify, you can follow us on YouTube, and all of the details and everything of the show notes is all on Substack for you to read.
Yes.
So.
And let us know your comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're digging. Let us know what you're not.
Yeah, that was probably too many calls to action, but we'll call it a day.
Choose one.
Ciao.
See ya.